Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Longing, episode 120. Today I was going to just leave this whole episode blank and then actually go in and put a pre-recorded script over this, but now the only pre-recorded thing in this is going to be this 2-minute intro right at the beginning. Because after 2 minutes or so, I decided to just start talking anyway, and then I ended up kind of liking what I said in that, even though I was like, this will just be practice for a different script. But no, it was fine. Even though that particular video has really no target audience. It talks a lot about Attack on Titan and ideas of freedom, but it also explains Attack on Titan. So only people who already like Attack on Titan would watch this, but also it's not it's like explaining it, so it'd be boring for people who already watched it. So there's no target audience. No one will watch this anyway. But yeah, also I talk randomly about a Ben Saint video. Maybe I'll try and shove into the description the link to that video in which he talks about a Winnie the Pooh episode. I probably talk about even more things than that that is going to be confusing. But anyway, if you don't want spoilers for Attack on Titan or Winnie the Pooh, maybe don't watch the rest of this video. Yeah, I'll let the rest of the video go on later. Well, I'm going to be talking over this, and I'm going to remove the audio here anyway. But maybe I can use this as a way of practicing talking about some of the stuff going on with Aaron, Historia, Ymir, and that dynamic, and those ideas of what freedom is, and all of that. So, Christa, in Attack on Titan, originally in the first season, is a very simplistic sort of moe blob, sort of just girl character that the other, guy characters are all kind of crushing on. And she's nice, she's just very simplistic in that sense. In season 2, and back in season 1, we already had the hinting that this other girl with the freckles, Ymir, was kind of into Christa, but it wasn't a super big thing or anything. It was just little scenes here and there. Attack on Titan likes to do that, just have little scenes. It's not super romantic or anything like that. It doesn't focus on romance and things like that. It just has little scenes that hint it could be like this, might not be. Take it however you want. We'll see how this goes. If people die, if this goes anywhere. Generally doesn't go anywhere. But in season 2 with Christa and Ymir, we see through flashbacks that Ymir was someone who really saw Christa in a different light. Whereas everyone else saw Christa as this extremely kind person that they really loved her for that, or at least crushed on her for it. Ymir saw a person who was desperately trying to be a good person. And not only were they doing that, they were trying to die a hero and trying to die a good person. That's the whole reason that Christa joined the Scouts, when she could have easily gotten a much better life as a military police member. Ymir even pulled some strings to give her that opportunity, but in the end, Christa decided to be a scout. And not necessarily because I'm sure on some level she appreciated the ideals of the Scouts, but at least according to Ymir, the true reason that Christa chose such a horrifically dangerous and scary thing to do was because she was hoping to feel good, to die as doing something good. And so she kept over and over choosing the most dangerous jobs. And in this flashback, we see that Christa is in the snowy mountains, is trying to carry someone who fainted back to safety, when in reality it's extremely unlikely that Christa could be able to pull that off on her own without dying herself in those horrible snowy conditions. And Ymir notices this and calls her out and says, like, you are just trying to die. Um, and talks about things with her, talks about her life a bit, not doesn't go in depth, but hints that my life was similar, but I chose to live life for myself instead of choosing to die to make the people who hurt me happy. And Ymir says to Krista, "Why don't you redirect that hatred towards the people who wronged you, instead of directing it all back at yourself and trying to die?" And this dynamic between Ymir and Krista, even long after Ymir's death, it remains a giant point. I'm gonna eat this mushroom. I'm gonna close my eyes, just sit here and close my eyes so that we can move forward. Forget how long this takes. But yeah, Ymir continually has to remind Krista, and Krista also has to remind Ymir. And at this point, as the series moves on, we find out that Krista's real name wasn't Krista at all. It was Historia. Historia took the name Krista because Krista was the name of a character from a story she read as a little girl, and the girl Krista from the story was a person that Historia wanted to emulate because of how kind she was and how much she cared for others. And so when Historia had to relinquish her real name, she ended up taking on the persona of Krista. And it's implied that this is not in any way her real self. But I have my own feelings about that, considering that Historia wanted to be this person, Krista. On some level, it must be part of her that she wants that on some level, right? It's not completely alien. It's not completely against her wishes that Historia wants to help people by being Krista. That's not crazy. And we see this throughout the series of Historia continually finding herself in situations where she has to make the decision to either help herself or self-sacrifice to help others. And she continually tries to pick self-sacrifice before having her friends remind her that that Ymir told her to live for herself and such, and that they care about her and don't want her to self-sacrifice. And it takes that before she ends up always then picking that alternative that is more self-devoted to herself. It's an incredibly interesting dynamic. And yes, when Ymir died, Aaron took on that role because of the moments they shared together, like moments of Historia talking to Aaron alone and saying stuff like, you know, Aaron, everyone liked me back when I was Krista, but now that I'm just kind of this boring, more self-absorbed, uncaring person, everyone must be so disappointed. But Aaron said, no, I wasn't disappointed. I always thought it looked like you were trying to put on some sort of an act, and I always thought it was kind of creepy. But now that you're Historia, I really like it, and I really appreciate you. And that's an obviously big flag for the ship, right? But so, and then when Aaron wanted to self-sacrifice, Historia told him, no, that's stupid. Don't self-sacrifice for us. And they continually do this for each other, where where Aaron will be like, you shouldn't be just trying to self-sacrifice, you should live for yourself, and then Historia saying the same back to him. And it's kind of beautiful, but in the same sense, there is the underlying terror of what this all means. Because there was that scene when Historia frees Aaron of his chains in the underground. There is, and I wonder if I'm going to be closing my eyes soon. When Historia frees Aaron, Aaron's like saying, "What are you doing? I need to sacrifice myself so we can save the world from the Titans." And Historia's like, "Save the world from the Titans? I'm beginning to hate people. Let them get eaten by the Titans. I am the worst girl who ever lived." And a lot of people who watch that scene the first time, they're like, "What does that mean? Worst girl who ever lived? Melodramatic much?" But the second I heard that, I knew, like, this is coming back. That was an important line, "I am the worst girl who ever lived," because I could tell, like, Historia wasn't an idiot. She knew that, like, by making this choice, she was effectively damning the world. And a lot of people didn't get that in the original. And now I'm beginning to wonder if I ever unlocked the ability to close my eyes at all. Oops. I wonder if I have to go back again. How silly of me. But I'll keep waiting and see what happens. Indeed. So where do I want to go with this? One thing I want, before I get too far away from talking about Ymir, I want to bring up, there's like a point of where Ymir says, like, Ymir is questioning, should I do what I think is best for Historia, or should I do what I want to do, consequences be damned for Historia? Which is, she was deciding, should I sacrifice myself, or should I try and go meet up with Historia because I don't want to die without seeing Historia again, even though that might completely fuck over Historia. And she ends up, after initially thinking, "Oh, I'm going to self-sacrifice," she changes her mind and she says, no, even if I destroy Historia's future, I'm going to do what it takes to go and meet her. Historia knows what an awful person I am, and yet that girl still smiles at me. And that was always this concept of what is the nature of love? Like, is that love? Like, I was listening to what's his name, Ben Saint's video on Winnie the Pooh with Kessie and Rabbit and all of that. I think I'm gonna just fall asleep here instead of actually closing my eyes, which is a shame. But let's just keep talking. I'm not done talking. In that Ben Saint video, Ben Saint talks about how he sort of rejected the point at the end of Winnie the Pooh, that Winnie the Pooh episode, in which Pooh says, "Sometimes people just love too much." And he said that to him, love is selfless. And if Rabbit truly loved Kessie, he wouldn't have effectively clipped her wings, metaphorically. And because Rabbit so badly wanted Kessie to stay by his side. And yet in Attack on Titan, we have a very similar situation in which Ymir is effectively... She at least believes when she does this. She believes that she is going to be clipping Historia's wings, but when she goes to meet her. And yet she does it anyway, and it truly feels a lot of the time like... I feel like it still seems like love to me. It's a sad sort of love when you realize that it can hurt the person you care about. But but I don't, and at the same time, I find that terrifying and off-putting that she cares about Historia so much that she would hurt her. I'm not confident in that. I'm not confident in my feeling that that is love. In a lot of ways, I do think like I just don't know. I don't know. But I really love that Ben Saint video. I might try and talk more about it a different time. I was trying to sort of emulate that a little bit, along with all content that like internet reviewers do about like children's media. When I made that Winnie the Pooh video that I did about Pooh's Grand Adventure, and I mean, yeah, emulating that style, but certainly not anywhere near as good as the type of discussion that Ben Saint was able to have, which was, I still come back to that video. But yeah, this idea of what is love and what is freedom, what does it mean to live for yourself versus self-sacrifice, and versus like what Ben Saint said in that video, it doesn't seem like when Rabbit, like that Rabbit and Cassie, Rabbit was just putting on an act at the end to try. Oh, 400 days. How long is a day anyway? We gotta go for. Maybe this is what allows us to move forward. I've never seen the sun. There must be a realm beyond this cave. I wonder if I'll ever see the outside world. I could make my way to the top of the cave. The journey will be dangerous. I will have to face the darkness. If I become darkness, it won't see me. The greatest darkness lies within myself. Close eyes. We got it. We got it. All right, move forward. Wonderful. I suppose at this point I probably will just use this audio instead of what I was originally planning to use. I was originally planning to use audio of me going over the most recent chapter of Attack on Titan 137. Or is it 138? Whatever. But in that video, Ben Saint talks about how, and I should really be explaining what the hell that video is. There's an episode of Winnie the Pooh, like Disney animated Winnie the Pooh, in which Rabbit finds a baby bird, and Rabbit decides to take care of the baby bird and save it, right? And who are you? And when he does so, he becomes extremely attached to the baby bird, right? And when the baby bird starts to want to fly, it falls into danger, and Rabbit has to save it, and the bird's name is Cassie, and he wants to he tells the bird, never fly so far away again. It's dangerous. You have to promise me. And he forces this baby bird to make this promise to him. Whereas all the while, as the bird is growing up, she wants to leave because she's a bird, right? And she longs for it. And yet she made this promise to Rabbit, and she's so that confliction of, I made this promise and this isn't what I want. And the whole time Rabbit is sort of holding this over her head. Can't see where I'm going, but it feels right. Rabbit's sort of holding all this over this poor child's head. Like, you wouldn't leave me, because if you left me, that would hurt me. And it's really dark and really sad. And like he says, there's like a full like 20-second scene of Cassie just sobbing alone in a rocking chair after Rabbit was like, you don't need me. You don't need me for anything. And it's like, oh god damn. It's like, whew. And but like like rabbits, I mean, not like Ben Saint said in that video. Uh, got to freeze. When Rabbit finally tries to go after Cassie at the very end, when she finally starts to leave, was taking quite some time. He, it doesn't seem like he's come to terms with Cassie leaving. In the end, he still on the inside desperately wishes that she would stay, and it slips out in his emotion, and it goes to show that deep down, yeah, what he wants still isn't what's best for Cassie. What he wants is still what's best for him. And in Ben Saint's eyes, this is not love. Love is selfless, and if he truly loved her, he would, with all his heart, want what's best for her, even at the expense of himself. Whereas in Attack on Titan with Ymir, it still feels like it's probably love, and yet she wants what she wants for herself. She wants to. I want to live and go and meet Christa. And it's hard to, because of names, when I'm going to always accidentally say Christa when I mean at the time period in which she was Historia versus I don't know. But that's an interesting little thing to me that I think about a lot. Um, the nature of love and such. But that's kind of a tangent from what I actually wanted to talk about, which is like, where did this living for oneself lead the characters in Attack on Titan of Historia and Eren? And major spoilers again, if you've gotten this far and you really should have left already. But manga spoilers, this is the end for Attack on Titan. And it's not over yet. There's still a couple chapters left, so I don't know. I'm talking from the perspective of someone who has not finished the series and is a couple chapters away from it ending. But what we know is that Eren and Historia are likely a couple at this point, and I could be a red herring and all that, but Eren has kept telling her, like, I am not going to sacrifice you. I'm not going to let you be sacrificed. I'm not going to let any of my friends be sacrificed, even if I have to kill every other human being on this entire planet. I will kill everyone. And he's in the middle of doing that. He is in the middle of his omnicide, in which he kills everyone who lies outside of the island. Man, women, and children, everyone. And Historia at first was like, no, you can't do that. I couldn't ever lift my head up again if I was complicit in this. And Eren just says, like, he says more than this, but the biggest deal of it is, he says, I'm not going to sacrifice you, and you can get through this, because you are the one who saved me that day. You are the worst girl in the world. And a lot of people are like, why would he call her the worst girl in the world? Well, it's because that was Historia's emotional moment. It's so meaningful that he would bring that back up again to tell her, like, I remember when you saved me and you said you were the worst girl in the world. I know what you meant, and I'm bringing up again here. And it felt like there was understanding in Historia's eyes. You can always do the whole shipping wars thing of, like, the joke of everybody's, like, pointing arrows to everybody else and, like, look where their gaze is, look where he's looking. And it's like, they're anime characters. You can't tell what they're thinking. So really, for me to say, you can see that in her eyes, that's pretty bullshit, really. But I guess that, if anything, that goes to show more where my mind is as opposed to the character's mind. So Historia does end up being complicit in this, unless there's some sort of twist that hasn't been revealed yet. And in doing so, you can see later on, more obviously, she's frowning, when there's the sunset scene, and it's the first time it's revealed that she's pregnant, and she does not look happy at this point now that she's complicit with the omnicide full rumbling plan. So like there's all this questioning of like, what is the true self? Is the true self Historia? Is the true self Christa? I think on some level, Historia really does care about everyone. And then everyone's telling her, no, your true self is to follow what you want and be selfish. Is that her true self? She looks so sad now. She looks, I don't know. It's so much more complicated than just like Christa is fake and Historia is real and such. It's much more complicated than that. This idea of, like we saw it with Reiner, that Reiner had two personalities, and eventually he was able to at least sort of meld them back in together with each other. But to me, it still feels like Historia hasn't. I mean, the fact is, she hasn't been given a good opportunity to meld her personalities into one. But and she sort of was able to get that opportunity when she was queen, because she was able to open up the shelter for the orphans and such. But I guess now she just has been given a shit opportunities where she either has to choose self-sacrifice or the complete selfish option of killing everybody and living for herself. She's just been put in a shit situation, and yeah. But all of this thinking has made me wonder, like, for myself, like, I always want to help people. I want to be a good person, and I do kind of want to self-sacrifice and for the sake of helping others and making the world a better place. Is that wrong? I don't think it is wrong, and yet at the same time, I gotta wonder, like, is there like some part of me that I'm chaining up? Am I like restricting myself somehow in the same way that like Historia continually, well, it's so complicated, right? But I'm just, I don't know. I don't know. Am I being a Christo when I should be a Historia? Or what? I keep asking myself that about what is freedom, and what do I actually want? Because let's see, we hit a dead end. Now we are on gravel or dirt. Just, I don't know. Well, we're finding our way to the end. I think we should end an episode here. And pick up. Is this something? What we got here? Coal? Lump of coal. All right. I think good place to end an episode. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. See you around. Thanks for listening. Bye.